Welcome to AI Paper Drop. I'm Alex.
And I'm Maya.
What if the secret to speeding up your data analysis by 27 times wasn't a better query or a faster server, but simply ignoring the database engine entirely?
Okay, wait. Ignore the database? Like, just not use it?
Exactly. Not the data itself, but the software that manages it. Think about how we usually get data out of something like MySQL or PostgreSQL. We use these things called JDBC or ODBC drivers. It is basically the official front door to the database.
Right, the standard way. You send a request, the database processes it, and it hands you the results. That sounds efficient?
On the surface, yes. But imagine that front door is a tiny, narrow hallway in a massive building. If you just need one row of data, it is great. But if you're doing heavy analytical work, like processing millions of records for a report, that hallway becomes a nightmare. It is a massive bottleneck.
So it is like trying to move an entire warehouse of furniture through a single revolving door. You can do it, but it is going to take forever, because you are forced to move one piece at a time.
That is a perfect analogy. And that is where the lock-in happens. Because the database vendor owns that revolving door, you're stuck with their speed. You're playing by their rules, using their protocols, and paying the performance tax they set.
So if the front door is the problem, why not just go through the back door? Or just climb through a window?
That is exactly what this paper is about. They call the system jailbreak. And instead of asking the database for the data, jailbreak just goes straight to the hard drive. It looks at the raw files where the data is actually stored and reads them directly.
But those files are usually a mess, right? Database storage files are not like text files. They are dense, binary, and often proprietary. If you just open a PostgreSQL storage file in a text editor, it looks like digital alphabet soup.
Exactly. Normally, writing a program to understand that soup would take a human engineer weeks of digging through documentation and source code. It is grueling work. But the researchers had a realization. Why have a human do this when an LLM can read the documentation and the source code for you?
So they're using AI to reverse engineer the storage format?
Pretty much. But it is not just one prompt like, "Hey GPT, write me a reader." It is more like a specialized AI factory. They set up 4 different agents. You have a dataset generator, an architect, a coder, and a QA tester.
A full development team of bots. How does that actually work in practice?
It is a loop. The architect analyzes the database source code to figure out how the data is laid out on the disk. The coder then writes the actual C++ logic to parse those bytes. Then, the QA tester checks if the output is actually correct. If it is wrong, it goes back to the coder to fix it. They iterate until they have a perfect, high-performance reader.
Ouais, c'est plus. That is heavy lifting. They are actually generating low-level systems code to bypass the engine?
They are. And once that code is written, it takes that raw binary soup and turns it into something called Apache Arrow. If you're not familiar, Arrow is like the gold standard for fast data. It is a columnar format, which means instead of reading row by row, it reads entire columns at once. It is designed specifically for the kind of massive analytics that the database drivers struggle with.
So the AI builds a custom bridge that goes from the raw disk straight to a high-speed memory format. But does this actually work? I mean, if you miss one single bit in a binary file, the whole thing usually crashes or gives you garbage data.
That is the wild part. They tested this on PostgreSQL and MySQL, and the correctness was spot on. They compared the results from jailbreak against the official JDBC and ODBC drivers using the TPC-H benchmark, which is basically the industry standard for stressing out analytical queries. The results matched perfectly.
Okay, so it is accurate. But how much faster are we talking? Is this like a 10% boost, or something that actually changes how you work?
It is a total game changer. For PostgreSQL, they saw up to 5 times speed up. But for MySQL, the numbers were staggering. They hit nearly 27 times faster throughput.
27 times? That is not just a tweak. That is like replacing a bicycle with a jet engine. How is that even possible?
It comes down to something called zero-copy handoff. In the old way, the database has to serialize every single row, send it over a network protocol, and then the client has to deserialize it. It is a lot of packing and unpacking. Jailbreak just grabs the data from the disk and puts it right into the memory buffer. No packing, no unpacking, no midlema.
I imagine that makes the CPU very happy. You are basically removing all the bureaucracy between the data and the person analyzing it.
Exactly. And because they're outputting to Apache Arrow, this data can be plugged directly into other super fast tools like DuckDB or GPU accelerated frameworks. You get the storage of a traditional database, but the speed of a cutting-edge analytics engine.
This feels almost subversive. Like, the database vendors spend years building these ecosystems to keep you inside their walls, and now we have an AI that can just map the walls and build a tunnel under them?
That is exactly what it is. It shifts the power. Traditionally, if you wanted to move your data or analyze it in a different tool, you were at the mercy of the export speed of the database. Now, if the storage format is documented or open source, the AI can synthesize a way out.
Does this mean the database engine is obsolete?
Not at all. You still need the engine to manage transactions, handle concurrent users, and keep the data safe. You do not want to be writing to the raw files yourself unless you enjoy losing all your data. But for the reading side, for the big analytical snapshots, the engine is often just an obstacle.
So the future is a hybrid. You use the database to keep the data organized and safe, but you use an AI-generated bypass to actually get the insights out of it at lightning speed.
Precisely. It is a blueprint for breaking any data lock-in. If an LLM can read the manual, it can build the key.
I love that. The fastest way to get through a database is to go around it. If you are enjoying this, follow or subscribe to AI Paper Drop wherever you listen. It really helps, and we have a new episode every day.
Paper by Victor Giannakouris, Emmanuel Trummer, produced by AI Paper Drop.